So we were formed in December 2023, and at that stage it was just myself and Gordon Muir. Gordon's the Chief Executive of the Rural Development Trust, which is a Lanarkshire-based organisation who've been delivering a number of community projects from transport to heritage to community planning for a number of years. So we're part of a network of community climate action hubs all across Scotland. There are 22 of us, and we're funded by the Scottish Government. That's the climate change team within Scottish Government. So our purpose, to drive climate action forward and accelerate change from the ground up by building connections and bringing people and groups together across Lanarkshire. I thought it might be worth just going over that in a wee bit more detail. What do we mean about that? So the hub's here to bring support, to help people and organisations to adapt to living in a changing climate, to be able to connect with others, and that's quite a key part, and also for us to give help to bring your ideas to life. Climate is a word that you may be familiar with, but it might not feel relevant to some of the activities that you do or some of the people that you support. So we like to think about taking it into smaller pieces of climate. One of the ways we talk about climate is through energy. So how much energy are we using? That's one of the questions that we might consider. Looking at travel, that's another theme. And how do we travel? Travelling for work, travelling for education, travelling to appointments or socialising. Then another thing is our food, another key part of our life, and looking at considerations around how is our food produced and where does it come from. Another factor that's important for our day-to-day lives and which climate comes under is green spaces. So how are our green spaces supporting people and also supporting nature? And lastly, another theme that we consider under climate is waste. And by that we mean actions that we can take to reduce waste or activities that we can take to find a purpose for waste. So it's not going to landfill and it can be used in a purposeful way. So how do we do those things? As a hub, I suppose we have three things that we bring. We have staff, and we have a team of development officers who each have a different climate theme. So that those themes that I spoke of, energy, travel, food growing in green spaces, and looking at waste. And they're there to help support you in project development. We're a bit of a virtual hub. So we have our website, which is packed with ideas of projects. We've done research in areas to help you in developing your own projects. So things like a directory of bike and cycling services that are offered by organisations across Lanarkshire. We've already done that mapping exercise for you. And another service that we bring is funding, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight. And I'll go over those two things. So if we move on to slide 3, I can start to talk about one of those particular funding streams, which is the seed grant. So by seed grant, what we mean is a small grant fund, which is available for up to £1,000 for community groups and organisations in Lanarkshire. And the purpose of this fund is to help you start a climate action project in your community or to carry out community engagement around climate change. So who's eligible to apply? As we said, we're here to tackle climate change from grassroots up. So it's any local community organisation or group that are based in and working in Lanarkshire. So we need those organisations to be non-profit distributing. We need them to be constituted and to be organisations with bank accounts. If you're from a school or a learning institution, we'd advise that you work with a community group on your project, and that's so that you can maximise the impact in your local community, and also so we can make that funding go a wee bit further. So what can it be used for? It's the cost that would be associated with delivering your project. So costs for materials, costs for expenses. What the funding can't be used for are costs that you've already incurred, items or equipment of a personal nature, or repairs and improvements to premises or land that you have no ownership or arrangement such as a lease to be able to do any works to that land or to that building. We do recognise that £1,000 doesn't necessarily go that far, so we are offering it to be used as part funding. So you may have funding from other sources and you can use the SEED grant towards your project. But what we ask is that other funding be secured already. So for example, if that's a grant from a locality or a community board, you have to have approval that your project has been approved by those organisations and include that evidence with your application. So what does climate action project mean? You might already have a project in mind, but we thought it was worth just pulling out some examples. On energy, possible projects could be a feasibility study, considering using a renewable energy source on your community building. It could be around organising energy advice workshops, or potentially looking at reviewing some of the energy efficiency measures and how they might be applicable to you, your community organisation or your stakeholders. Types of projects to do with travel could be creating maps of active travel routes, putting on volunteer training, such as ride leader or cycle trainer, or looking to do a feasibility study on a community car scheme. So that might be things like carrying out surveys, perhaps online or in person, having some engagement sessions to test out whether something like a community car scheme would be applicable for your group. For growing and green spaces, types of projects might be a community garden to increase biodiversity. It might be teaching growing skills so that you can increase local access to food in your group. Or it might be citizen science to record impact in nature and environment. And by that, that's looking at patterns. So it could be logging levels of litter and the type of litter, or it could be carrying out a nature study, looking at types of species of butterfly that are in a particular park or a green space. And then the last one we've got is we've labelled it circular economy than waste, but basically those terms are interchangeable. And the types of projects we mean by that could be a community larder to reduce food waste, teaching repair skills, or setting up a swap shop for sports clothing or sports equipment. By community climate engagement, we've got a few examples as well. One could be inclusive events for people to get together to talk and act on climate change. So by inclusive, we mean spaces that people will feel comfortable in. So ensuring there's nice food, refreshments, it's a warm space. Perhaps holding a workshop to explore local climate impacts and record the priorities of the community. And that could be looking at your locality and impacts that you know of, like areas that flood. Or perhaps it could be organising like a local assembly or a gathering and having people share and swap information on ways that they can adapt to low carbon ways for changing the way they generate energy or how they travel. Or swapping ideas about how they can reduce waste from food or from the items that we purchase. So the application process we want to make as easy and straightforward as possible. There's an application form to be completed, and we've tried to keep it as concise as possible. So we would need a completed copy of that, copy of your group's constitution, and a copy of a recent bank statement. And those three documents to be emailed to us. We're going to do a rolling assessment. So we say if you send them to us for the 20th of each month, they'll be assessed on a monthly basis. And the first review is planned to be taking place on the 20th of June. So in preparing your application, just be mindful, and there are questions to direct you to this. So give us clear examples of who in the community is going to benefit from the project. Tell us what's the impact you expect your project to achieve in enabling you to take climate action or improve the resilience in your community against climate impacts. And also just be mindful of what climate considerations you've chosen and the types of materials or the things that you're buying from your project. So that might be if you're buying compost, ensure that it's peat-free. If you are looking to have people travel, costs associated with active travel or car sharing, that type of thing. So that's what we mean about climate considerations. I've got a short video to show you here. This is an example of a local project up in, I think it is in Croy, community organisation called the Northern Corridor Volunteers, who you may be familiar with. They came along to Croy Youth Hub to teach them bike maintenance skills. So it's all very well encouraging people to live in a more climate friendly way, but we need to empower them. So that could be providing the equipment, or in this case, providing the skills. So today you signed up to come along and hear about the SEED grant, but we've got a 2-for-1 thing for you here, that we're also in a position, starting from next week, to be offering our Climate Festival event grants. So we thought tonight would be a good opportunity to give you the information about this grant as well. So the SEED grant is a project grant, up to £1,000. The Climate Festival grant is about enabling you to put on an event or an activity as part of the Lanarkshire Climate Action Festival, which will take place between the 9th to the 22nd of September. Available is up to £500, and again targeted at the same people, so community groups and organisations. And the purpose of this grant is to enable you to host events and activities that will get the climate conversation going in your community or raise interest in climate action. So I'll rattle through some of these things. It's the same eligibility criteria. So you have to be an organisation that's non-profit distributing, based and working in Lanarkshire. The funding can be used for materials and expenses to deliver your activity or your event. So again, items can't have been purchased already or of a personal nature. And the key thing is that the events and the activities need to take place between the 9th to the 22nd of September. What do we mean about events and activities? Here's again some examples. So we want it to be interactive. We want it to be fun. So fun events for everyone could be things like nature walks, bike rides, litter picks, tree planting events. We want them to be interactive and hands-on. So that could be things like swap shops for clothes and toys. Could be the opportunity to pot up some plants, or look at preparing or perhaps preserving the recently harvested fruits and vegetables. It's an opportunity for people to feel inspired. So it could be inspiring talks, practical skills like bike maintenance skills, or looking at solutions like community nature for carbon capture, or providing some information about how you could reduce energy costs for community buildings. So it's also going to be a good opportunity for people to connect and share ideas. So it could be activities around swapping tips for sustainable living, demonstrating recipes that reduce food waste, or a chance to start building local sharing libraries for things like equipment and tools. Application, again, we want it to be easy and straightforward, so complete the application form, send a copy of your constitution and your bank statement. This one will be assessing the applications as they come in, but we need to have all the applications in before the 31st of July. So this is the types of things that we'd be looking for you to document. Who in the community will benefit from your event or activity? What do you expect the impact of your event to be to get the climate conversation going, or raise interest in people being involved in climate action? And once again, just be mindful of the climate when you're thinking about what to buy for materials or items for your event or activity. We've got contact details. So on our website, we have grant guidance documents, the application form. We also have on our website links to projects if you're looking for a bit of inspiration for the SEED grant, and our contact details. So we have the general info email address, and also you'll find under those different themes contact email addresses if you wanted to speak to someone, for example, specifically about travel. That's easily found